Ask you. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about you and your GSD journey, please?
So my daughter is now 3.4, and when she was roughly, I guess, 9 months old, we took her to a different doctor just for nappy rash, actually, and that doctor just said she was a little bit small and palpated her abdomen and said that her liver was a bit large and her spleen. So she referred me to see the medicine specialist at the Royal Children's here in Melbourne, Australia. And from there, I guess we were pretty lucky with the doctor that we saw, and they had heard of GSD because a lot of the doctors that we've kind of met haven't really had any knowledge of GSD or thought to investigate that way. So we were very lucky to have, I guess, an easier journey than many. Um, Throughout, I guess, her child, like being a baby prior to diagnosis, the only thing I noticed with her was that she would sweat a lot when she was feeding. Um, and I guess the sweating probably was because she was low, then she's woken up to be fed, and that was kind of why she was sweating. Um, so that was only really the only thing. But every time I mentioned it to someone or her size was mentioned, it just wasn't really a problem. So we were pretty lucky to have escaped any major hospital visits up until the surprise diagnosis that we weren't even looking for. Yeah, so then the diagnosis took us about, I think she was about 13 months by the time we kind of got her diagnosed. So the process takes quite a long time.
So what type of GSD does your child have, and what's the treatment for that?
So she has GSD 6, and the treatment is she has to be fed a specific amount of carbs every 3 hours during the day, which is 4 grams per hour, or ideally 12 grams every 3 hours. And then at night, she has some glycosade every 4 hours to keep her going through the night.
And what exactly is GSD type 6? Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, so it's a ketotic type. So she gets hypoglycemic, her ketones rise. So there's a few different ketotic types, but she has the 6. Her liver gets enlarged from storing the glycogen. She does get muscle aches and pains, but she doesn't. GSD 6, generally speaking, shouldn't affect other organs, but it's a there's lots of conversations around the fact that they all get quite a lot of muscle pain.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So I do still have a couple more questions for you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So how did you tell, as your daughter was growing up, how did you tell that she has GSD type 6?
So we did the genetic testing to get the diagnosis of GSD 6.
How did you inform your daughter that she has GSD type 6?
Oh, okay. So I guess she's only 3, but she really understands because I've just kind of really spoken to her about every meal, and we get every packet out. We look at the back. We talk about carbohydrates. She really likes to reenact all of her hospital visits with her dolls. So she talks to her dolls about carbohydrates and when she's allowed to have them, when she's not. She talks to them about the fact that they can't have sugar because she can't have sugar. So she really reenacts a lot of what I say to her through play. And I think that's just been the best approach for us. I've just been kind of upfront and honest with her that she's can't eat certain foods, and that it's really tough for me as well to say no to her. For us to say no to a child to have fruit, like that seems very odd because children should be eating fruit. But because of the sugar content, some healthy choices that is healthy for others aren't healthy for them. So I guess, I've just been very open and honest with her, so that she has a really good understanding of her body and what things make her feel when she eats or doesn't eat.
All right.
But lots of challenges with a 3-year-old because they only want to eat what they want to eat.
So, what advice do you have for other parents as they support their child with GSD?
I think just being open and honest, and I guess we want our children to own that they have GSD, and because it's not very well known, letting people know about it. And I think the more people that know about it and understand it, the more children will get a diagnosis, because I think there's a lot of children just diagnosed with idiopathic hypoglycemia that, yes, in one sense are treated very similarly, but the sugar control isn't there, and they're storing, the glycogen in their liver. So I think just really open, honest communication, treating them like they understand everything, even from a really young age. Like, from when she was 1, I've been talking to her about the food packaging, because I want her to be able to make informed choices as she grows up. And I also want her to own the fact that she has this condition. Like when she gets to primary school, kids aren't so nice. So I think it's really important for them to, own who they are, be able to stand up for themselves if they get picked on for not being able to eat certain foods. Yeah, that's kind of my advice, is to really try and get them to own their condition and know the ins and outs of how different foods make their body feel.
And does she have a favorite GSD recipe or snack that she'll eat like all the time?
Not really. She's 3. She changes her mind all the time. She's not a very big meat eater. Her favorite foods are actually vegetables, which is kind of a problem, which would be great for most children, but not for GSD kids. So trying to get her to eat meat is quite a struggle. But yeah, I guess I just give her lots of variety and option and allow her the choice within the limits of what she can have. Yeah.
So besides the GSD Facebook community and the annual events that go on, is there anything else you would like to see happen within the GSD community?
Well, I guess in Australia, there isn't as much out there as there is in America. So in Australia, I mean, I've not met anyone else with GSD. There's a couple of people on the page from Australia, but there isn't any connection or group. I did try and start a Facebook group, but it didn't really take off. Just a couple of people kind of jumped on, and then there wasn't really much communication. And then I guess I didn't pursue it, which I probably should have. But yeah, the connection just isn't really there for people in Australia, because I think I don't know whether there's probably a lot less people because of the population, but also I think a lot of the Spanish influence carry the GSD gene, so that's a lot more in America.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I learned something new.
Yeah, there's 2. It's very high in I think it was the Jewish community and the Spanish heritage. Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
I think just know your child and know when things aren't quite right, and really push for testing and diagnosis. I think that, in Australia, we're very lucky because we have a free healthcare system. So all of my testing is paid for. So it makes it quite difficult for people in countries that don't have that option. But once you have a diagnosis, it's much easier to really manage and know what you're dealing with. Even with a GSD diagnosis, without knowing the specific type of GSD, makes it that little bit more tricky to manage. So trying to let the doctors know that there is something wrong. And if as a new mum, I didn't realize that my daughter was sick. I kind of knew it wasn't quite normal for her to be small and to sweat. But when people assure you, you just kind of allow the fact that they're the professionals. But as a parent, I think being the advocate for your child is the most important thing.
Thank you so much for taking the time to answer some of these questions today, and hopefully this will help spread awareness about GSD and what it entails. Thank you.